This is going to be a walkthrough for Chapter 14 practice. Here's question 1, and remember for all 15 questions, all of this information they give you is connected from question 1 through 15. So I just took and copied the information that they gave me into an Excel spreadsheet, and then I copied it to each sheet so that I could reference them. You could do this all in one sheet since each one usually asks for 1 or 2 questions, answers with minimal calculations, but you can set it up however you want. Okay. Marcus Company common stock sold for $3.50 per share at the end of this year. The company paid a common stock dividend of 63 cents per share this year. Those two numbers will be important later for one of the questions, but for question 1, it's not needed yet. It has also provided the following data excerpts from the year's financial statements. So it gives me beginning and ending balances for cash on all of these things. And then here's all my sales, cost of goods sold, gross margin, net operating income, interest expense, and net income. Okay, so earnings per share is net income divided by average number of common shares outstanding. Now, normally, to come up with the number of shares, I would take the par value and take this balance and divide it by what? The par value. Because the par value is 1, and because the amount is the same for both years, if I add these two together, divide by 2, and then divide by 1, I'm still going to get 133,000. So just double check what is the par value. If the par value is anything other than 1, to get the number of shares for each year, you will take the amount that they give you and divide that by the par value to get the number of shares. And then the average is both years added together divided by 2. But because the years are the same, my common stock par value is 1, I don't need to do that. So I'm simply going to take my net income divided by my number of shares of stock. So mine is 97 cents per share. All right, question 2. So here's where, remember at the beginning, they told me the market, or sorry, yeah, the market price was $3.50 and the common stock dividend earned was 63 cents. So I need the earnings per share from question 1 that I just figured out, and the market price, which was given at the beginning of the problem. So price earnings ratio then equals market price per share divided by the earnings per share that we figured out in question 1. So mine is $3.62. Now, in this one, question 3, there's my market price again at $3.50. Here's my dividends of 63 cents. And my earnings per share again was from question 1. And they are asking me for dividend payout ratio and dividend yield ratio. And these are percents. And we're not rounding intermediate calculations. Round our answer to the nearest whole percentage. So dividend payout ratio is going to equal dividend per share divided by earnings per share, which again was the answer to question 1. So I get 65%, and then dividend yield ratio is equal to dividends per share divided by market price per share. So I get 18%. Okay. Question 4, they want to know the return on total assets, assuming a 30% tax rate. So I referenced the tax rate right there. So return on total assets, this one's a little tricky, equals parentheses, net income plus parentheses, interest expense times another parentheses, 1 minus the tax rate, close all 3 parentheses, divided by, oh dear, I didn't figure out average total assets. So we're going to do it all in one cell. Open parentheses. In fact, I'm going to do 2 open parentheses because I want to do ending balance plus beginning balance, close 1 parentheses, divided by 2, close all of the parentheses. Let's see if I got the right answer. Yes. So if I didn't want to have all of those, then remember average total assets equals ending balance plus beginning balance. And I forgot my parentheses again. I wanted to add that first and then divide by 2. So then I could have done equals open parentheses net income plus open another parentheses interest expense times parentheses 1 minus the tax rate, close all 3 parentheses, divided by average total assets. And then if I tell that I wanted a percent with 1 decimal place, same answer. So you can do it either way. You can do it all in one cell, or you can figure out average first, because that's a lot of parentheses to remember and get straight. And if you don't get them all straight, you'll end up with the wrong answer. Okay, question 5. I'm going to do this first just because I like to do it this way. Equals parentheses. I'm figuring out my average total stockholders' equity. Divide by 2. So beginning plus ending, divide by 2. Okay. Return on equity is going to equal net income divided by average stockholders' equity. Don't get confused and choose liabilities and stockholders' equity. It's just stockholders' equity. Be careful on that one. And again, we're rounding to the nearest whole percentage place. Okay, question 6. Okay, so if you remember, because I only have $1 par value, 133,000. So that's just how many it is. If my par value had been something else, I would have taken 133,000 and divided by the par value. But since my par value is 1, then it's just, that's how many shares it is. So equals total stockholders' equity. And I believe we're doing it at the end of this year, so we need to pick the ending balance of stockholders' equity, not liabilities and stockholders' equity, just stockholders' equity, divided by the number of common shares outstanding. So I got $3.05 rounded to 2 decimal places, and that is dollars. Okay. Question 7. Working capital. And again, we're doing the end of this year, and we're rounding current ratio to 2 decimal places. And remember, so working capital is dollars. Current ratio is just a number to 2 decimal places. It's not dollars. It's not a percent. It's just a number. So we're going to reflect that. So working capital equals current assets at the end minus current liabilities So I get 98,200, and then current ratio equals current assets divided by current liabilities. So I get 2.45. Question 8. All right. So asset test ratio, remember this is the one with our quick assets, which are cash, marketable securities, and accounts receivable. It does not include inventory. And again, we're doing the end of this year, so we need to do the ending balances. And in this particular problem, we don't have any marketable securities. So it's going to be cash plus accounts receivable divided by current liabilities. So equals parentheses ending cash balance plus ending accounts receivable balance divided by current liabilities. So my asset test ratio, and again, this is just a number rounded to 2 decimal places, not a percent, not dollars, it's just a number, 1.56. Okay, looks like I need an average for accounts receivable. It's just easier to do this. So beginning or ending plus beginning divided by 2 gives me the average. And so my accounts receivable turnover, and I believe they told us all the sales are on account. So equals the sales on account divided by the average accounts receivable. And then average collection period then equals 13.20, which was my first answer, which is the, oh, whoops, I did it backwards. 365 divided by the accounts receivable turnover. So, okay, so I'm gonna go out on a limb here because that's not quite the right answer. So let's see what happens if I, instead of referencing this cell, put in 13.20. Oh no, that's still the same answer. Oh, what did I do wrong? 13.20. That is, I'm getting a different answer. Equals sales on account divided by average accounts receivable down here equals 365. Maybe I did a typo. Divided by accounts receivable turnover. Yep, I must have done a typo. Oh, hey, look at that. I did. Okay. See that? Whoops. See this right here? That is a typo. That is an 8. That is definitely not a 5. Don't do that or you'll get the wrong answer. Okay, so 365 divided by accounts receivable turnover. Okay, question 10. Whoops, let's make sure that, yeah, it did. Okay, so question 10, I found out because I typed it in wrong. You do need to hard input the inventory turnover when you do the average sales period, or you come up with the wrong answer just by a few cents. But because it's graded by a computer, it's just enough that it's wrong. So it is what it is. So I need my average inventory balance, which equals ending, oops, parentheses, ending plus beginning, close parentheses, divide by 2. Okay, so cost of goods sold right there divided by average inventory balance. So I come up with 7.32, and this is a number. It's not dollars or percents or anything. It's just a number. And then average sale period equals 365 divided by 7.32. So the reason I had to hard input that to get the right answer is right here. It says to round your intermediate and final answer. So that means this number needed to be rounded. And if you remember, Excel has all kinds of decimals hidden. And so I had to hard input that number because they wanted me to round the intermediate number to get the final answer. Okay. So question 11 is taking the answer from question 9, 2765, and the answer from question 10 and adding those together because the operating cycle is average sale period plus average collection period. So equals this plus this. So 77.51 days. And again, these are just numbers. They're not percents. They're not dollars, just numbers. Okay, question 12. So I need to figure out average total assets, close parentheses, ending plus beginning, close parentheses, divide by 2. There's my average. So total asset turnover equals sales divided by average total assets. So rounded to 2 decimal places, 1.44. Question 13. So times interest earned ratio equals earnings before interest expense, which would be the net operating income, divided by interest expense. And it's rounded to 2 decimal places. So you just find the earnings that are just above. There was no taxes in this one, so it's just this one right here above interest expense. All right, question 14. Debt to equity ratio for the end of this year. So again, we're going to be looking at the ending balances equals total liabilities divided by stockholders' equity. So I'm coming up with 0.38 rounded to 2 decimal places. All right, and the last question is equity multiplier. So my average total assets divided by 2. And then I'm going to copy that. This one. So average total equity and average total assets. Those are the 2 numbers I need for equity multiplier. So equals average total assets divided by average total equity. So 1.34. Again, that's just the number, not a percent. Hope that clarified, especially question 9, 10, and 11. They seemed a little trickier than most.